Assalamu alaikum. In today's lesson, we will learn letters Dal, Ra, and Waw. Now, when we say Dal, that means that we are going to learn Dal and Dal, the one without the dot and the other one with the dot. The same thing goes for Ra and Zain. And we are going to learn Waw. Now, we will first start with the Dal. The Dal in Al-Kufi script has several shapes to it. We can either have the simplest shape, which would be something like this, or you can add more decorative moves to it down here or up here with deleting this part. Also, you can either stop here or move it a bit further upwards, right here, or you can add more decorative moves to it, given that this is the maximum height, like the Alif. This is also the maximum drop, just like the Alif. Let's start and see how we can create Dal. For this, we are going to use the normal way. We will locate our baseline, which we will take somewhere around here. Now, for this, we are going to use the 8mm thickness. That's only because the paper I've got is limited. So if I used a bigger thickness, I will not be able to finish the letter. I might be cut mid doing the letter right over here. Therefore, we are going to use the 8mm thickness. Now, as we said before, we take the 8mm from the baseline and we mark that line in order to give us the full thickness. Now, the base, let's take this point right over here to be our starting point, or where the letter would be start. So, the distance from this point till the end of the letter is 2/3 the height of an Alif, that I mean. So we've discussed before that the height is 12. The height of an Alif is 12 centimeters, which is 12 times, sorry about that, 12t. So 2/3 that would give us 8 times t. Therefore, we've got 8 multiplied by 8mm. This will give us 64mm. So we've got 64mm to draw as a base for the ba. We get our ruler, we start from here, we find the 6.4mm point and we locate it on the paper. This is where the letter ends as the base. Now we are going to first draw the simple shape without any decoration. The gap between the upper part and the lower part of the Dal is, as discussed before, would be half the thickness. So if we started from here, we are going to take the full thickness, which is about here, and now we are going upwards 4mm. So this line would be our inner edge of the upper part. Now we connect this with a semicircle to close it. And here we are going to do the same. So this is 8mm. Right over here. And this will connect with the 8mm that we've got here. And as we said before, you can use a compass to do that. You should use a compass actually. So we go here and connect the letter. If you were to take it for its simplest shape, you will have to put the decorative move that we've got from the bar right over here, which moves the full thickness to the right, and it moves 1.5 thickness upwards. So I will ink this letter to show you how it would look like. Here we've got the simplest Dal that we can work around with. If it was disconnected, we only have to stop it from here. But if this was connected, then you just move it on. To add more to the shape, we can put a decorative move right down here, just like the one for the Aleph. Let's imagine there's an Aleph going through this part of the letter. This is what the decorative moves look like. We are going to move downwards 12 millimeters, which is 1.5 the thickness. As we can see here, this is the point. To the right, we are also going to move 1.5 thickness, which is right over here, and from here we are going to move half the thickness. So this will look something like this, and then we connect this to this part. Right here we've got the decorative move downwards and it's going up. We can stop here or add more. To add more, let's add the decorative move right over here. We'll leave half the thickness and we draw a line. Now, this part would continue upwards as a normal dot. This is the first point we've got here. Now it will move to this point. They will move upwards the half thickness. After that it will move upwards the full thickness. Therefore we have to locate the 8 millimeters above this line, which is the full thickness. Now let's draw a square in this one. So we are going to move upwards with the full thickness, which is 8 millimeters. Rotate it around here and then come back to the upper part. Now to do that, all what you have to do is connect this line with this line straight. Okay. This one will also have to move upwards until this line, the lower part, which is the upper part of this, and this is where it will go back to its origin here. On the inside we've got the part of a circle that goes like this to close in. On the outer edge we've got the outer part of it. So you start from here. This is the center point right over here. We are going to put the compass and draw a semicircle. From here you will have to take 8 millimeters to the left and draw your circle. You can also add this upper part, which is the thickness over 4, which is 2 millimeters in our case. Here we've got another shape of the Dal. To add more decorations to it, we go upwards in this part. So we will take the full thickness right over here, and we are going to stretch it as we discussed before. The maximum height is the maximum height of the alif. However, if you want to stop somewhere around here, you can. Let's take this point, mark it, and for example you can stop right here and take this decorative move and put it up here. So let's take 4 millimeters by 4 and connect them, and then close it to where it should end. Here we've got this letter, then like this. If you want to, you can add a decorative move right here and continue to the highest point. This move, the decorative move here, looks similar to this one. Therefore, first we have to identify the maximum height we can reach up over here, which is 12 times the thickness, which is 9.6 centimeters. Which is this one. So right here the letter stops for its maximum height. You add another decorative move just like this one, and you can either close it like this or add a decorative move right over here, which is around in the middle of the height. So this decorative move would be 4 by 4. This is the box that governs the circle, and yet again on the outside we are going to add the 8 millimeters thickness. So if you want to color this, the full shape of it, we will have a look at it right now. Here we've got the simplest shape of the Dal. You have to color this, but I kept it open for me to continue with the coloring. Also you have to color this part, but I've made the same thing here. So we just got a straight line with a concave line with the decoration right over here. If you want, you can add this part of it, like this, or you can add this part to it. As we can see here, you can delete this part and add this part. If you want more, you can add this part to it. I've done the same here. I left this part that you should color it, but you shouldn't color this part, the small decorative move here, if you wanted to do the big one, because you can't have this edge colored. We will continue with this semicircle. So there you have it. This is the full shape Dal for Al-Khatt Al-Kufi. As we discussed, you could have it by itself, separated from here. You could have the several moves. They all look something similar to this. We've talked about the easiest shape, this shape. This is the first shape. The second one, we added a small decorative move down here. Down over here. Then we've decided to add more to it, to the top of it. After that, we've got the continuous part of this one. So you go up, you go down, then you go upwards. Now keep in mind, if you want to add these shapes, you get rid of this one, so the small edge would not show and the bigger decorative moves. If you want, you can add this other part right here. Now you can mix these together. What do I mean by that? For example, you can get rid of this and have this, so the letter would look something like this. You've got the Dal, it goes to the left instead of this one, and it goes up, either fully upwards, or you can add the small circular motion. You can add this or leave it. So you can play around with the decorative moves that we've got for the Dal. Now let us look into the Ra, which is also the Zain. We've got two shapes in this. The first one looks like this. And you can connect it from here. The second one looks like this. And you can also connect it from the right. So let's look into these two shapes for the Ra and the Zain. If it was a Zain, you should add a dot on top of it. We are going to use the same page we are working on. So we've got our baseline over here, as we can see here. Now the maximum size of the letter is governed by these dimensions. So this Ra is 4t by 2t, so it's rectangular. Now from this point, the lower part of the baseline, we are going upwards 2.5t, and below that we are going to move 1.5t. These are the dimensions that govern the thickness. So we are going to start somewhere over here on the baseline. Let's draw the square that we talked about. The upper part, which was 2.5 the thickness, equals 2 centimeters. So starting from here, we are moving upwards 2 centimeters, and that's the end of it. The lower part is 1.5, which is the 12 millimeters we always talked about, which is around here. Let's go to the left 2 centimeters, twice the thickness, which is 16. And we go upwards right over here. This is the box that will contain the Ra, the one right over here. Now, let's divide this box into 3 parts. We've got the first part, which contains the thickness itself, right over here. A second part would be the upper one, and the third part would be the lower one. Starting from this edge, move to the left the full thickness, which is 8 millimeters, which is the midpoint of this line, right over here. This is where the letter starts rolling down, just like this. Now, from here to here is also the full thickness. We're not going to take the full thickness. We're going to take 5 millimeters, stop here, find this point on the midline, right over here, and connect those two together. After that, we're going to move this way around the shape. We will take it 2 millimeters off the ground and we are going to draw it just like this. The inner part should be touching the midline, which is right over here. So this one needs to be smaller. And for this one, you close, as we can see here. You can connect it, as we said earlier, and color it. Now, as we mentioned earlier in previous videos, you can use this tool in order to create these shapes, the curved shapes. If you want to do it freehandly, you need a tracing paper to trace the raw and copy it to the other raws. For the second raw, we've got the exact same dimensions, but the moves will change. Therefore, we are using the same baseline we are using for the raw and the dal. We're going to use the same box we used for the raw. Now, for this one, which is quite easier than the previous one, all you have to do is move straight with this line, then concave. Meanwhile, the decorative move on top of it is just like the bar. Now, we know that the full thickness is 8 millimeters, so we are stopping right over here. The decorative move, now of course you are going to start from this point. So you start here, you go upwards, that's the end point of the bar. You go back to do the decorative move. This decorative move is 1.5 the thickness to the left from this point. Therefore it will be 12 millimeters, and it drops 1 T, the thickness. So it will intersect with this line over here. This is the line. And it's 2.5 the thickness, so it will stop right over here. It will fall back to the full thickness, which is this line, and it will drop 4 millimeters as we discussed many times before, which is right over here. Now all what you have to do is move to a straight line. And then do the circular motion with either one of these or using a compass. So this is the point. We are going to stop, and this will follow. Back to the top, and there you have it. Let's color this. Here we've got the two shapes of the raw. Our next letter would be the letter Waw. Keep in mind that, as we discussed earlier, that this could be a dal or a dal. This could be a raw or a zain. You just have to add the dots. Now for the raw, we're going to change the baseline. We are going to bring it up over here. Let's take this our baseline. We will start from here. We'll move upwards because Waw looks like this. For the Waw, we've got several shapes to it. The first one we are going to draw is basically just like the raw we just made. It's slightly different. Goes up and goes down, and you've got this head. This head is also used in fa and qaf in some cases. And we've got the other shape, which is more rounded. We start from here, go all the way down, and we got a drop shape to it. So we've got this one or this one. We're going to start with this one. As we can see here, given that we've got the full thickness right over here and here, the inner part would be half the thickness. So the letter would look something like this. And here we've got the full thickness, which will go like this. So this is the woe we are going to draw now. This part is full thickness T. The small I inside is half T, T over 2. And the upper part is the full thickness T with the decorative move, which is half T. Therefore, what you are going to do is, using these dimensions, we are going to start from the baseline, give it the full thickness, the 8mm thickness. This is it. From here, we are going to move upwards half a thickness, which is 4. Then we are going to move the full thickness, which is 8. Right over here. Now we've got the first part of the right side. We add to it the small decorative move. If you don't want to add it, it's fine. But it's half the thickness, which is 4mm. Right over here. This will end with the full thickness of the vertical parts. Therefore, if we said that this is the full thickness, we're going to dot this part. This decorative move will move in a curved shape that ends up closing with the full thickness. Now here we've got the inner part of the woe, which is 4x4, and then you close it with a quarter of a circle. We can see the shape began to take shape. The letter began to take shape. Now here we are going to move 8mm, and taking this as your center point, you can use a compass, or as we discussed earlier, those ready-made circles. You would get your compass, open it for the right amount of diameter or radius you are working with, and draw the circle. As you can see here, it closed nicely and neatly with this part. Let's outline it right over here. Here all you have to do is just connect this line to the baseline. As we can see, we've got the nice head shape of the letter WOW right over here. Now for the lower part, as we discussed earlier, that the maximum drop we are going for is 12mm, which is around here. Let's dot this line. From this point to the left, you are going to take T over 4, which is 2mm. 2mm would be right over here. This is where the end part of the WOW will stop. Starting from the bottom line, you go rounding all the way until you finish at this point. The lower part is raised by 3.5mm, which is around here, and you go all the way to your beginning. Again, you can use one of these shapes to draw the curve that you got here. And this would be the connection if you wanted to connect it. Let's color this WOW and see how it look like. There you have it. We've got the letter WOW in its first shape. For the next shape, what we are going to do is change the straight lines we've got on top of the shape right over here into circles. For this, you'll have to start from the same point we've talked about earlier, which is right over here. And the best way to do this is identify the circle you have. So the top part is 1.5 the thickness, which is this half and the full thickness. Therefore, will intersect with this point. And we know that the letter goes all the way down to the baseline. Now, this point, as we've seen here, is actually the lower part of the eye, of the inside bit of it. To do this, all what you have to do to identify the center point, as we said, we started from here, we went up to make a box. So this box will be 2.5 by 2.5 the thickness. So here we've got the full thickness, then we've got the inner part of the wow, then we've got another full thickness, which will end up here. Right now we've got a square that will contain our letter. The center line of this square you can either identify by joining these two lines from here and from here. Therefore, this would be our midpoint. Or you can just calculate it based on the thicknesses and the fact that the inner part is half the thickness by half the thickness. Now, get yourself a compass. It's already on the right size, I reckon. Put it in this center line and draw a circle. These parts are going to be the exact same. On top, we can add this decorative move, which goes from the center line. You go upwards half the thickness, and you connect this to the first part of it. This will go down to the baseline. The second part, you measure the half of thickness, which is right over here, and this is where this move will change its direction. We've got a nice drop shape to it. In the center, you will have to add the inner part of the wow, this part, which is a circle with 2 millimeters of the diameter, or depending on what size you are using. Right over here we've got, these are the boundaries where the circle will intersect, and all you have to do is continue drawing the circle. Right over here, what you are going to do is measure the full thickness, which is right here, and stop by it. Similarly to this one, you'll go outside half the thickness, 4 millimeters. This can be either singular, like this, or you can connect it to the letter before it. Let's color it and see how it looks like. As we can see here, we've learned how to make the wows and the shapes. Now, depending on the Kufi script you're writing with, there are other types that has floral decorations to them. Anyway, this is the simple and basic shape to it. You can connect it, and just like the other letters. During this lesson, we've learned the following letters. We've learned the Dal and the Dal with 5 different shapes to them. We've also learned the Ra and the Zain with 2 shapes to them. Also, we learned the letter Waw with 2 shapes of it. Now, for our homework, so far you know the letter Alif, Ba, Ta, Tha, Jim, and Ha and Kha, and Dal and Thal, Ra, Zain and Waw. Choose a word or a sentence that has these letters in them and write it down. For example, you can write the word word, or Jad, grandfather. Work around these letters, practice them. Before moving on, due to the fact that if you haven't practiced these letters, we've got similar shapes like the Waw in later letters, and the Jim would benefit you for more complicated letters. This has been Ammar Alaudi, and see you in the next lesson.